Okie dokie. In this problem, we are given the equation for f prime, and the goal is to identify the graph of f. So, a little crazy going on here. It's a little crazy of a visual. So the first step is identifying the x values that make f prime equal to 0. So once I find one, I'd imagine finding the rest should be pretty easy. The first one is x equals 2, because when we plug 2 in here, it makes this factor 0. Then when this factor is multiplied by everything else, it makes the entire f prime function or equation equal to 0. Therefore, the other x values are -1 and -5, because when those x values are plugged in, f of x equals 0. What's the significance of this? When f prime is equal to 0, we have a critical point, or a possible location for a max or a min. So what we should see first to help us eliminate some options are maxes and mins. Let's start just with one value. So x equals 2. When we look at x equals 2, we want to find the two colors that have either a max or a min along this vertical axis. It looks like pink has a max and blue has a min. And right away, because green is slanted and orange is slanted, no maxes or mins, that means that we can eliminate green and orange just like that. So then it's between blue and pink, and usually the two that you narrow it down to will also have maxes and mins at -1 and -5, or the other x values. So there's really no need in checking all of those. Generally, pink and blue, or the two you narrow it down to, will be opposites of one another. So the next step is to plug in x equals 0 into f prime and analyze the sign. And what this is going to tell us is the slope of the function f at x equals 0. So if we plug in 0, see if we can clear up some of this here. If we plug in 0 to this function here, this equation, we have negative and we have 0 minus 2. So -2, 0 plus 1, +1, 0 plus 5, +5. So we have a negative times a negative times a positive times a positive. So two negatives, an even number of negatives in the whole thing, results in a positive. So what does this mean? F prime at 0 is positive, which means f has a positive slope at x equals 0, because we plugged in x equals 0 to f prime, and the derivative f prime tells us our slope sign or value, really. So between the two we had pink and we had blue. If we look right at x equals 0, the one with the positive slope is pink, and blue has a negative slope at 0. So pink is our answer. So let's go ahead and do two more examples real quick. I want to say this one is actually the exact same except for the graphs here. So x equals 2, -1, and -5 make f prime equal to 0. So just starting by looking at x equals 2 again. So right at 2, we have a minimum for pink and a maximum for green. So we can eliminate blue and orange because they do not have either a max or min at 2, -1, and -5. So between green and pink, again, we want to plug in 0. So f prime at 0, we have a negative, and for the rest of these, we really don't need the numerical values. We can just say, like in the first parentheses, 0 minus 2 gives us a negative, and then 0 plus 1, positive, and then 0 plus 5, positive. So, again, double negatives equals a positive. So an even number of negatives results overall in a positive for f prime of 0, which means f has a positive slope at x equals 0, which means between pink and green, green has the positive slope at x equals 0. Keep in mind, we're we're considering right in the middle at x equals 0 when we look for that positive slope. Let's go and do one more example. X values 3, 1, and negative 3 make f prime equal to 0. Therefore, we should see maxes or mins at 3, 1, and negative 3. So really, let's just pick 1. Literally, x equals 1. And we're finding the colors that have either a max or a min at 1. Definitely not green or orange, so it must be pink or blue. So no green, no orange. And we plug in 0 to f prime. 0 minus 3 gives us a negative. 0 minus 1, negative. And then 0 plus 3, positive. Negative, negative, positive. An even number of negatives is a positive. We're looking for the one that has a positive slope. So between pink or blue, right at x equals 0, pink has the positive slope. So that's our answer. If you have any questions on this process, please let me know. I hope this helped narrow down kind of the everything that you're looking at, the equation and the colors, because usually it looks a little intimidating, but hopefully following this method will lighten the load a bit. All right.